welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Anna Daviscourt. I am going to be hosting pro tips today, and all of our pro tips are going to be doing with the overlay blend mode in Photoshop. If you don't know about this mode, I'm going to show you everything I know, so buckle in, everybody. I just want to say hi to the chat real quick. Thank you so much for being here. Kendall, first in the chat, gold star Kendall, saying hello, hello. We've got Robert, we've got Keys, we've got, who is this Anna Daviscourt in the chat, and why is she so chatty? What is this? We've got Robert, we've got Alejandro, Carol, hello everybody, welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. Keys, key tips, wow. Keys says, other than watching your pro tips and working on something, not much, because I was asking, what are your plans today? And that is a great plan. Hey, nothing much. That sounds great. But if you want to pop open Photoshop and follow along with me, it'll be a great day for that. We've got Bree on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a lot of activity in the Behance chat, so if you guys want to chat it up, Behance is where it's at. But happy to have you from everywhere. Thank you so much for modding today, Voodoo Val. Lovely to see you. All right, let's jump into it because we only have a half hour today and it's going to be a packed one. All right, so let's jump into Photoshop. I've got a file to show you guys here. And first of all, raise your hand. Does anybody know what the overlay blend mode does? I know Kendall does. Kendall is an A student, so obviously you can, just write the book on everything. So I'm going to show you show don't tell exactly what it does, and I am going to show you what I know of it. Now this is one of those tools that is one of many ways to do things in Photoshop. There are a million ways that you can do things, so if this feels like it might fit your workflow, I highly recommend you just try it out. So what I'm going to start with showing you is I'm just going to create a gradient. Actually, first I'm going to make a square or rectangle here, and then I'm going to put a gradient inside of it. So all I have to do is use the marquee tool, that is Control M or Command M if you're new here. And then we've got the gradient tool is right down here on the left on my toolbar. And I have a gradient going from black on one side all the way to white. You can see that medium gray in the middle. Now this is on just a normal layer, meaning there is no blend mode used for it yet. To access the blend mode, blend modes, all you need to do is on the layers panel, go to this thing that says normal and open it up. And there are a million different options down here. They do a myriad of things. For overlay, that's what it does. So what is happening here, if you want a little explanation, is pretty much the image is staying pretty much the same in the center of our gradient, and on the left side things are getting darker and on the right side things are getting lighter. This is because when you go to black on an overlay blend mode, you're basically putting a multiply layer over things. So the darks get darker. And then on the right side, you can see everything gets lighter and it's like a screen blend mode. So the lights get lighter. So, and then in the middle, we have basically no effect on the lights and the darks. So that is what happens with the values of an overlay blend mode. You can see if I move it over things here, you can see the effect it has. It's pretty much just universal. And if I were to fill this whole thing with 50% gray, you see no effect. I can turn it on and turn it off. Absolutely no effect when it's on an overlay blend mode. So just keep that in mind. That's basically what we're doing here today. Now, what I'm going to show you first, I have 3 different things that I wanted to highlight today. It's going to be colors, graphics, and textures. So we're going to start with colors. Now, if that is what happens when you use the values, just black and white, it changes things. Imagine if you add color to this and how much power that can have. So first, I just made these little layers to remind myself. So first, what I'm going to do is go over one of the things in this painting, this piece, that just feel a little drab. I feel like the clovers are not living up to their full potential because they kind of feel like the values are blending in. That means like the light and dark of it. It's not really hitting what I want it to hit. So I'm going to go down here in my layers panel and show you some of the layers that I have on top of this baby. So we've got some flowers, some stems, and some clovers that I added onto a kind of textural background that I had already. This is actually from another piece of mine, and I just another hot pro tip on the side, I would recommend using some of your pieces as other pieces when you can. Just if something works again, you can make a post for a certain holiday. Like if I wanted to make this Easter themed or something, easily could do that. So just keep that in mind. So over this clover layer, I'm going to create a new empty layer. I'm going to put the blend mode on overlay, and I'm going to clip it to the clover layer. If you don't know how to do this, you can press the Alt key and hover your mouse between two layers and then click down with your mouse, and then boom, it's clipped on. And that means that it is locked to the bounds of the pixels on which the layer it is locked to. If that makes sense. I can't paint outside the clovers anymore. Okay, so it's on overlay blend mode. I'm going to pick a nice big brush. I'm going to use Kyle's Bristle Balm brush, one of my faves. And I think I'm going to just choose a slightly darker and slightly cooler green just to start things off and see what I feel. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening here. So we see this clover, and it's got more of a green, and it's slightly darker than the green that we had before. This is really useful if you want to do some temperature shifts. So if I have just one green, cool, great, love green. However, there are so many myriads of color within nature that we could add a lot of temperature shift going from warmer to cooler, and it would really liven up this piece. So I'm going to go to the darker, or the cool... Wow, I can talk. The warmer side of things. So instead of it being a more blue-green, it's now a more yellow-green. And I can swipe, swipe, swipe around here and just add a little random variety into these clovers. So you can see a little bit of the color shift. And then again, go into the cooler. Woo, woo. Do you guys remember that movie that had Cooler in it from Dragon Ball Z? Cooler was the brother of Frieza and was obviously cooler. Anyways, I digress. So what I'm going to do is just do some really big kind of random textural marks over the whole piece so that I can get a sense of what's working and what isn't from afar. There's also this handy dandy navigator window up to the left. If you ever want to see your piece from far away at the same time that you're close up, it is a really nice way of just keeping an eye on everything. So now I've got, oh wait, I kind of missed this guy. There we go. I've got some of the darker, bluer greens overlaying our clovers. And now I can go in with that more yellow green and just create some little marks. And I could go much darker with this as well. Again, the values make a difference with this. Overlay has a very powerful effect when it comes to values. Darker equals multiply. Lighter equals screen. Joshua says that was really geeky, Anna. Hey, man, if we can't get geeky here, where are we going to get geeky? Oh, man. Joshua also says, I love using overlay and multiply blending when I'm shading artwork. Exactly. So this is basically like shading artwork. It's just used in a very specific place. This is foliage, but imagine using it on a face. Imagine using it on characters or backgrounds or anything you could possibly imagine, any kind of background or artwork that you could possibly have. Overlay can do a lot for you. And this is just working within greens. You could have a myriad of colors. Speaking of which, let's just add some kind of random colors. I'm just going to take a new layer. I'm calling this one details, and I'm going to set it to overlay. And I'm just going to grab some random colors, maybe even from the piece that we have already, and just smatter them around. You can see that I have some brush strokes in here that are kind of wild and crazy. That is because I love that kind of thing in my style. I would highly recommend just playing around with it if you haven't ever done something like that. If you've never just scribbled and felt out like what that made you feel in your head, in your heart, in your soul, in your hand. I would highly recommend just trying it out. And it's definitely a style that I have grown to love, just kind of dinking around and throwing in different marks, maybe even some like squiggles. And especially with something like foliage or grass. Oh, sorry, I got a bubble in my throat. If it's foliage or grass, you really have a lot of freedom. You can try out different mark making tools. You can just make like whatever kind of goes. Just like I have these little tick marks over here, I can go in with maybe the white of the flowers and just go shoop, shoop, shoop. And with these, I really like to try to guide the eye in a direction, kind of creating this flow, almost like a school of fish. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge for the future. Also, we got Ryan Selfie in the chat. Hey, look who it is. It's you, Ryan, the star of our Friday shows, File New. Thank you so much for being here, Ryan. How is your day going? Hopefully you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Joshua says, hi there, Ryan. Anthony Jackson's in the house. Hello. How are you? Keith says, clever. Hopefully these are clever uses of overlay. I would love to hear your guys' uses of overlay if you've ever used it before. This is a very powerful blend mode, and also I'd say often used. I think it's one of the more popular ones. So it's funny, but like, there is a popularity contest amongst blend modes, at least in my opinion. Okay, so we've got some random marks here that are all sorts of colors. You can see the effects that this has on it. If you want something lighter than the artwork, just choose a light color and it will basically be screen mode. And if you want something much darker, you can make it darker and it will basically be multiply. Super powerful, very adaptive to what you're working on. If you're working on photos like our previous stream with Sin, you can absolutely use this to dodge and burn your photos. That means like lightening and darkening with black to white spectrum. Very cool. Beth says, overlay is one of my favorite blend modes. Often use the black and white overlay to create highlights and shadows. Exactly. I love it. You don't have to use color, but I do think it is really fun to use color from time to time. Of course, depending on what you want to create. Anthony Jackson says, I often use overlay in many of my backgrounds. Awesome. Okay, so we've got colors down. We have talked about it. So next, I want to show you graphics. Graphics means creating something that will go over this piece in an overlay blend mode, of course, but this doesn't have to necessarily be marks that you're making. It can be something that is already there. So I have created a text layer saying every day is Earth Day, but right now it is on normal blend mode. Here, I'm going to move the colors to down here so that it's not overlapping. So this is just a normal blend mode right now, and it's this like bright yellow. I think it's very cute, but it also doesn't really mesh with the piece completely. It might be a little hard to read at some places. So what I'm going to do is pop it into overlay. You can see that the darks and the lights have very different effects with this text over it. So what I'm going to do is I like the yellow, but it's not necessarily like a one and done, you win. One of the things that you can do, though, to figure out what color works the best for you is create a hue saturation adjustment layer. That's this little half-colored circle at the bottom. You can just go to hue saturation, and boom, it creates this layer, handy dandy. And once again, you can clip it to whatever you want. So I'm going to press Alt, hover between the two layers, and click down. So now that I've got this clipped to our text, we can go down here into the properties of it and change whatever color we want. I'm thinking maybe lowering the saturation, maybe making it a little lighter. I think that's cool. Yeah. Lower, lower, lower saturation. Higher, higher, higher value. I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah. I like that a lot more because it shows through some of the blues and a little bit of more the cooler tones because we already have a lot of warms in the background. So that is what I think of as a nice little graphic over top of it. So I could post this on Earth Day, or I could post it literally any day because any day is Earth Day. Woo! Also, Robert says you must use dissolve on your brushes also, Val. Oh, dissolve is a really cool one too. We should go over that on our next pro tips. Hey Val, you want to do a dissolve pro tip? All right, so we've got this as a graphic. I wanted to also remind you guys that you can use the overlay blend mode to create a watermark. In this day and age, it's very nice to mark your work just because, you want people to find where you're at. So I like to make my watermark my website. And I'm thinking we could actually probably make this a lighter color. Once again, I think that would pop really nicely on here. And then we can put it into the overlay blend mode as a text layer. and boom, we've still got it. And then if you don't want it to pop out so much, you can always lower the opacity and just make it like that right amount between subtle and readable. So don't ever take it so subtle that it's not readable. Hot tip. So now I've got this marked as mine. I've got it with the text on top. I could also alternately or along with it add another artwork on top of it. So I made this artwork recently. This is actually wallpaper on my Patreon, as well as it's going to be a postcard this month. So if you want it, sign up to Patreon, baby. Self-plug. Okay, so if you take another piece of artwork over your original one and then set it to overlay, you can see this crazy effect it has that is like really powerfully over it. Now, you can, of course, take the opacity down or do whatever kind of stuff you want to make it blend together. But I actually really like it. I think it's a crazy amount of contrast that's going on. And of course, you can do all sorts of different adjustments to tweak those individual things. But if you want this effect, having the multiple artworks over each other, you can absolutely have it. Now, this is a really dark piece, so it is bringing out a lot of the darks. We can pop again let's do a levels on this one. This is another adjustment layer, and it's that half filled circle at the bottom, and then you just go to levels. And again, you can clip it by pressing Alt. And then we can take the darks and just lighten them up. This takes away the blacks of the piece. So there we go. Much lighter. Much lighter. And then we can have this all the way up, and now we've got some fish flowing over our piece, as well as tons of foliage. Peter Beck says, love the fish. Thank you so much. I love this piece. I think it's really fun. Every day is Earth Day. All right, so now that we've got some graphics over this, I'm going to just go with the text, I think. I think that I like the fish, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Vote fish or no fish for this piece? All right, so last but not least, what I want to do is show you textures that you can use overlay to apply to your piece. Let's see. So we've got some texture abilities in here. Now, we can use it kind of like graphics, where we just take a image and then we put it over this in an overlay blend mode, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the end of it. So here is an image of paper. Wow, look at that paper. So aged, so raw. Oh my gosh, everybody's voting fish. Clever says fish. Kendall says fish. Alejandra says fish. Peter says fish. And Juan says fish. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so the paper effect that we have. Oh yeah, by the way, you guys get what you want, obviously. I will keep the fish on. Okay, fish for you. Fish for days. Okay, so we've got this paper texture. Whoa, that's really cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is kind of random, but this is, just as an aside, a good example of what the graphics can look like overlaid on a different image. So this is an opaque paper layer with everything else on overlay above it, which is really cool. Honestly, I really like this one. I should have just done paper as the background. But anyways, let's continue with the example. So I'm going to take this paper layer and turn it on to overlay, and you can see what it does to this. It gives it that fine texture of paper. It gives it all the little imperfections that old paper would have, any little dots and scratches and things like that. It's really fun to do this on a piece that has kind of minimal details, so that the paper texture sings a ton, but it does a lot on a piece like this, where it just gives it that texture. Ooh. And once again, we can we could take away the color with a hue saturation layer. We could change the levels to create different contrast for our piece. But another way that I wanted to show you of putting noise and texture on our paper or our piece is a secret technique that I have every once in a while showed on a stream here. I am very curious. Can you guys guess what I'm going to do? There was a hint earlier in the stream, if you want to know. There's something secret that you can do here. Okay, so we've got a blank layer. And what I'm going to do with it is fill it with, here's another hint, 50% gray. Can you guys guess what I'm going to do? Huh? Okay, and I'm going to fill the whole thing. My hotkeys for this is Alt backspace or Alt delete. So you can see it on a normal blend mode, it is just gray. Juan guesses that I'll add more fish. Carol says brush on dissolve. That is a good guess, but no. And Anthony Jackson says happy accident, paper texture for the win. Agreed. Happy accidents are the name of the game. Okay, so this gray I'm going to put on overlay, which again does absolutely nothing to our image, just makes it the same thing. You're looking straight through it. It's basically invisible. D questions shading. Good. Good concept, but not quite. So what I'm going to do with this gray layer is I'm going to go to filter, and I'm going to go to noise, and I'm going to go to add noise. Wait, did I despeckle? Yeah, I did. Whoops, sorry, I pressed the wrong thing. Filter, once again, we go to filter, noise, and add noise. And then it brings up this menu. Let's zoom in on our piece just so we can see the effect here. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So this filter, it adds basically like a white noise. Do you know like a static on a screen, that kind of thing? It adds that kind of texture. And it is this black and white random speckling, which means that we have, instead of 50% gray, it is going to black and white, which adds so much noise. And we've got this amount spectrum that we can make it on. So obviously it's really effective, like really impactful when it's like this, which could be used to great effect. But for my pieces, I usually just like it to be really subtle so that it gives it this grain, this feeling of something that is almost like printed on film, or something that's just a little less smooth than fully digital. Now, this also makes it really hard for somebody to say, try to erase your watermark and claim it as their own, that kind of thing. So it adds this layer of protection kind of to your piece. And it also just gives it that really nice kind of texture and quality. So that is my trick for adding noise with the overlay blend mode as well. So let's put this all together. Let's talk about all the little layers that I've shown you today, because it's quite a bit that we can do with overlay. So we went through colors. We added the color layer here with the clover. I'm going to turn that down just slightly so that it's not as darkening. But it definitely needed that pop, right? And sometimes I actually find that I am on the less contrasty, less saturated side of things when I'm painting. And then at the end, I want to make it pop, pop, pop. So what you can do also, just another hot tip, is you can duplicate your, no, I don't want that. You can duplicate your whole piece. I should do it with the colors as well. Here, I'm going to duplicate these two groups, and then I'm going to flatten them together so that we have a whole flat piece. Beep. Oh, wait, that ruined the overlay. Here, let's make sure it's overlay. Boop, boop, boop. And then, boom. Okay, so now we just have a duplication of the whole piece, but on a flat layer. And I can put it on an overlay blend mode. And now all the lights are really light and the darks are really dark. I can turn down the opacity to make it just a little bit more poppy. So you can see that's like much more muted, low saturated, low contrast comparison to this. So you can just make it pow. And again, that is just if you're feeling like your work is every once in a while needing that pop. Overlay can kind of give you that feeling of, is the contrast right? Is it feeling right? Okay. So the second thing we did with our colors is we added just a fun little layer of messing around with colors, painting on this layer. I used it as a textural thing. You can absolutely use it however you want to add a bunch of color to a character. You can make it low opacity and just have the slightest value or temperature shifts, things like that. Then we added graphics. We've got our fish. The fish are back, everyone. Woohoo! The fish as a graphic here. We've got every day is Earth Day. We've got our signature so that everybody knows it was us that made this. And then, of course, we've got the textures under and over. So we've got paper texture, lightens and adds that noise of the paper. And then we've got the actual noise layer. And again, these are like real close up. You can see the difference. but it's hard to see when it's far, far away. So this is without noise, with noise. You can see a little bit of difference there. And then the paper texture is everything. And we also had a happy accident of, if that's on a normal layer, then we have our fish and our Everyday's Earth Day on overlay above it, and it looks really cool too. So we've hit on many cool designs today. I would highly recommend playing around with the overlay blend mode, if not to add the contrast, color, and verve that we did today, then just to play around and maybe find some happy accidents, because you never know how they're going to come across. The blend modes are really fun to play around in, so I would highly recommend trying it out. I would also recommend sticking around because we've got some awesome merch designs coming up in the next stream. Thank you everybody so much for joining me on this pro tips today, and I hope you try out the overlay blend mode. I'll see you again next time. Bye! If I can find the outro. Bye!